they didn't realize, that he was a tremendous runner. And, we said, tie yourself to a winner, and he was a winner. So he only had one major school, Division I school, that recruited him, and that was TCU.
Yes. And TCU is known throughout Texas, of course, and somewhat of the region of the South, but he really put TCU on a national map.
Yes, he did. Because he went in there, and the scheme that they were running was very, very suited to his ability.
Then when you watched him get drafted by the San Diego Chargers, how did that make you feel?
Oh, I felt great. I said, now here I am. We have a young man that's playing professional football, and I contacted him and told him, whenever you're in Texas, whether it's in Houston or Dallas, we will be there to watch you play. And we got a chance to see him play several times when he came to Texas.
That's wonderful. And then just a remarkable career he had, setting the single-season record for touchdowns.
Yes, that is outstanding. And, the whole time that he was achieving those accolades, he was very, very humble with it and very gracious. And that was the one thing about him, his character, was that he was a young man who had a dynamic character. And it reflected when he was in high school that same way. It reflected when he was in college, and he carried that same characteristic with him when he went into the pros.
Is there something special planned throughout the city or at University High for the Hall of Fame weekend?
I don't know if they have, because I'm not over there now. I'm sure that they will have something going for him, because there was one thing about LT. He never forgot where he came from, because he would always come back to Waco, and he would contribute things to the school. He would donate things to the school, and then he would have his camp for youngsters here, and those youngsters that couldn't afford the price, he would always make sure that they were able to attend. So I'm almost sure that will be some type of activity in honoring him for his accomplishments throughout his career. He has always stayed in contact with me, and I really appreciate him and love him for that.
Well, Coach, we thank you so much for joining us today on Married to the Game. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the whole University High family. Congratulations to the city of Waco, Texas. First ballot Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson, now forever immortalized in Canton, Ohio.
And I thank you for contacting me, and I wish him congratulations to both he and all of his family. Well deserved.
Yo, we told you it's wall-to-wall football on this show, right?
Definitely.
We covered the NFL, so now let's tackle some college football. Now, I went digging in the crates way back in January on our second show. Mm-hmm. We talked about the College Football National Championship and recapped that game. It was a late night. I had to keep you up from falling asleep, but you missed a fantastic game between Alabama and Clemson.
I fell asleep.
Yeah, you fell asleep. You were dilly-dallying on your phone, and you fell asleep. Mr. Sean Watson anchoring a fantastic drive to lead Clemson to the victory in the last seconds. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, it's a new season. And fans nationwide are pumped about their team's return to the gridiron.
Which includes Arkansas, SEC.
We'll give you that. SEC, Arkansas Razorbacks, I get it.
Okay. Thank you.
We're in the ATL.
I know.
The heart of SEC country. So when you're talking up the sport, who better to call upon than Mr. College Football himself, Tony Barnhart. We chatted with the acclaimed author and SEC Network analyst about the upcoming season. And the Razorbacks. You want to do your picks, or we good?
No, I'm good, because I got to get that throat together for that.
All right, check it out.
Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, thank you so much for joining us on Married to the Game.
Well, you're welcome, Roy. It's good to be with you.
So I know the polls aren't out yet, but want to get your insight on what's your top five heading into the 2017 season.
Well, right now I've got Alabama. When you sit there and look at their personnel, yeah, they lost a lot of guys on defense, but they've got some exceptional players waiting in the wings. I've got Alabama number 1, Ohio State number 2, Washington, a team I really like out of the Pac-12, number 3, Florida State number 4, and Oklahoma number 5.
Now, from an individual standpoint, you know it's never too early to start up the Heisman talk. Who are your top Heisman hopefuls for this year?
Well, this is where I get to give Southern Cal some love because I think Sam Darnold, their sophomore quarterback, is just exceptional. He had an incredible Rose Bowl last year, so I think he is absolutely in the mix as we start. Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma is going to have a big year, even though their head coach retired. I think Baker Mayfield is going to put up huge numbers. You look around at some of the great running backs. Saquon Barkley out of Penn State has a phenomenal Rose Bowl. I really like him a lot. I think Darius Geist at LSU with a new offensive coordinator in Matt Canada, he's going to find different ways to use him. If Bo Scarborough can stay healthy at Alabama, I think he is a special player. I don't know if he'll get enough carries because they're so deep at running back.
Right.
And obviously, Lamar Jackson at Louisville, who won it last year, will be in the mix as long as he's putting up good numbers.
Do you think he really has a strong shot to repeat, or it's really an outside shot?
No, it's an outside shot, in my opinion. I mean, I know I have met and I know the only 2-time winner, and it's really hard to win it 2 times. Or I've known Archie Griffin for about 15 years now, and so he's a special guy.
Yeah.
But no, I think the odds are against Lamar Jackson with it instead of in his favor.
Now, you know, one of the controversial topics when it comes to college football is paying players, really college sports in general. Where do you stand on should players be paid?
Well, it depends, Roy, on how you define getting paid. I'm a strong believer in finding ways to get resources to the athletes, and it's all athletes. It has to be all athletes on scholarship,
right?
Because of Title IX.
Right.
And I'm in terms of the cost of attendance stipend. I'm a big favor in paying for parents to come to games and going on bowl trips and things of that nature. Certainly, clothing allowances, all those kind of things. What I don't believe is what will happen is the players just getting a straight paycheck for playing football in college. I don't think that's going to happen for a host of reasons. But there are a lot of smart people in college athletes, and we need to do everything we can to get more resources into the hands of these student athletes.
Now, what do you think, or who do you think will be some team that's flying under the radar that when the dust settles in December, we're going to be like, wow, they really surprised us? And then on the flip side, who is somebody that's getting a lot of hype here in the summer that's going to disappoint?
Well, I tell you, to keep an eye on is, and because A, they're going to be good, and B, they've got a schedule to do real well. South Florida, Charlie is going there, and Willie Taggart left there to go to Oregon and left a wonderful team behind. And you look at that schedule. That's a 13-0 schedule if I've ever seen one. And if they go 13-0, what kind of part of the discussion are they going to be in when it comes time to the playoffs? I still don't think they get in, but it'll make for a heck of a discussion. As far as teams that may who are really being hyped up, I'm not sold on Michigan. I mean, everybody's got Michigan in the top 10. They've got to win something first. Now, I think Jim Harbaugh will eventually make that a national championship program, but they to me, they haven't done it yet. And so I'm afraid I'm looking at Michigan as a team that may disappoint a little bit this year.
Speaking of the playoffs and the national championship, who do you got in the 4, and then who do you have in the championship game?
The semifinals are back in the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl. I've got Alabama beating Florida State in the first game here in Atlanta, but then they get a rematch against each other in the Sugar Bowl for the national semifinals. I've got Ohio State winning the Big Ten, and again, I've got Washington winning the Pac-12, and I've got Ohio State and Washington playing in the Rose Bowl. In the other semifinal, I got Ohio State and Alabama meeting in Atlanta for the national championship, and I got Ohio State winning it all.
Wow. Now, that goes into our SEC part of the discussion, your wheelhouse, and you have Alabama making it to the championship game, but losing to Ohio State.
I do. I think Ohio State's got an incredible collection of players. They're a little bit deeper defensively than Alabama is. Again, Alabama's going to have a great team, but right. Somebody's got to win that game. And right now, and again, I haven't seen Alabama play this year, but right now, just on paper, I would give Ohio State a very slight edge in that game.
Because that was my question was going to be, is there a real threat to Alabama? But we answered it with the Buckeyes. But how much longer do you think Saban can go at it at this sustained level of excellence?
Well, as long as he gets after recruiting, and he's just one of the great recruiters we've ever had in this game. Obviously, he's one of the great coaches we've ever had in this game. As long as he has the enthusiasm to do it and to spend that time on the road and to hire the people who where it's a big deal. They've had 6 number 1 recruiting classes in a row, and I'm not real smart, but that sounds like that's a pretty good thing.
Sure is.
And if he can continue to do that, usually, and Paul Feinbaum asked me this yesterday. He said, when programs start to slip, does it happen suddenly? And the answer is no. What happens is recruiting starts to slip. Mm-hmm. And the classes aren't quite as good, and then that's when things tend to drop off. I know Nick Saban pretty well. He's at 66 years old. He's in tremendous shape. And as long as he wants to do, I think he'll do it and be successful at it as long as he wants to be.
Now, my wife is from Arkansas. She's a casual fan with everything else except for Razorback football. So for her, what are the Razorbacks going to do this year?
Well, things were looking a lot better for the Razorbacks until the last day of spring practice. Raleigh Williams III, their great running back, hurt his neck for the second time and had to give up football. So now they still are deep at running back. You lose a special player like that hurts you down the way. The defense last year was absolutely atrocious. Yeah. They have moved to a 3-4 defense instead of a 4-3. Paul Rhodes was elevated from defensive backs coach to defensive coordinator, and they've got to get better on the defensive side of the ball. They're going to score points. Austin Allen's a good quarterback.
All day long.
They can't stop anybody at all. Austin Allen threw too many interceptions last year.
Yes.
But they have got to be able to stop the run. If you cannot stop the run or slow it down in this league, particularly in November, it's going to be a long season.
Now, what's going on at Texas A&M? And with Sumlin, will he make it?
This is a big year for Kevin Sumlin. They've been 8-5 the last 3 years. They had a total collapse last year after starting 7-1, mm-hmm. and it's really simple. Again, that's another team that's going to score points because they've got athletes, but they cannot stop the run or slow down the run between the tackles. Mm-hmm. I think 5 of their last 6 opponents, SEC opponents, got over 200 yards rushing. Darius Geis of LSU had 285 against them.
Right.
They had 2 of the best defensive ends you're ever going to see, so they rushed the passer well. But teams just ran the ball up the gut, and they couldn't stop it. And they've got to do that if they're going to compete and get out of that 8-5 run.
Now, LSU, Les Miles is gone. What's the temperature like down there in Baton Rouge?
I spent a day in Baton Rouge while I was doing my spring tour and talked to a lot of people down there, and they are really excited about Ed Orgeron. I mean, the excitement inside the building at LSU was just really, really high. Spent about an hour with Coach Orgeron, and needless to say, he's excited as a Louisiana boy to be the head coach at LSU. And he went out and did what he had, whatever he had to do. He went out and hired Matt Canada as his offensive coordinator to give them some sort of creativity on offense, which they haven't had, which is why Les Miles got fired. Mm-hmm. So the issue is which quarterbacks are they going to go with? Are they going to go with Danny Etling, the guy who's played a lot but who sort of is limited in what he can do? And they've got some good young quarterbacks, and a guy named Lindsey Scott and a guy named Miles Brennan. They've got guys who are going to be really good quarterbacks for them, but they haven't played.
Now, we've been heavy on the West. Let's go over to the East, and rightfully so. The East is not on the same level as the West, so it doesn't get the same type of love. Who do you think is going to win the East?
Right now, I'm looking at Florida. The media at SEC Media Days picked Georgia, which was what expected.